When Kwame Kilpatrick was sworn in as mayor of Detroit in 2002 at the age of 31, he was the youngest person to ever hold the office. Described as brash and larger than life, he seemed to embody the big-shouldered strength of the Motor City.
All right? Yeah. Good. How you?
You got challenges that you're going to run across.
In the Oval Office, Alice Johnson, the president, and also Jared Kushner and the White House counsel were the only people in the room. And I've gotten an account from Alice and Jared Kushner that day, because that was a steamy meeting. The White House counsel didn't want me released. No, we can't release this guy. And Alice was advocating for my release. And the president eventually said, I'm gonna help the guy. This was January 12th. Now, we gotta understand January 12th, that's just 6 days after January 6th. So the Capitol, DC was reeling over what happened at the Capitol and what all of the people, and they were calling for Trump's resignation. So during that time, he was in a meeting in the Oval Office having a conversation about me, a guy that was locked up in a solitary confinement cell in Louisiana. For me, that is just the most amazing, unbelievable, miraculous thing in the world. And the president, that most people thought didn't have a heart, turned his heart towards me and said, I'm gonna help your guy. My commutation was signed at 8:40 the next morning, January 13th. They didn't announce it to January 20th and let me out to January 20th. But when I got the paper, it says January the 13th. So you got to understand, the president told Alice Johnson and Kushner, I'm a helper, be quiet, White House counsel, I'm gonna help your guy. They presented the paperwork to him the next morning. He signed it and put it with the rest of them that he was going to announce on January 20th. For me, it's just a miracle. And on January 15th, Tony, I was in the cell and I had this incredible moment of just depression. I'm going crazy. And it was this happened today, be a day that I could use the phone. Those people that have been locked up, you know, you only get the phone every 30 days when you're in isolation. So I can use the phone on January 15th. I called my now wife. I called her and we had this plan on her 40th birthday, January 28th. I would be home. I'm celebrating your birthday. We have been talking about it for 2 years. I'm gonna celebrate your birthday with you, you know, on your 40th birthday. And so I said, you know, I'm just not feeling well today on this. And it was the first, she said, well, if you're not here, we're gonna be together. And something quickened me. No, I got to get out of here. And I went back to the cell. They closed the thing. I sat in the cell and it was just crazy that day. But what I found out later is that I was going through hell, high water, depression, worry, anxiety, anger, and it was already signed.
It's already done.
It was already done.
Yeah.
And so when we in church, they said it's already done, or they singing a song, it's already done. It was already done, and I was going through all that hell for absolutely no reason. God had already moved.
Yeah. You know, I remember in the book when you told her that I'm gonna be there, and she said, you know, if not, I still love you. We still gonna be there for you.
That's right.
Yeah, but you like, I'm gonna be there, and you know, I'm sure that thought was, you know, to stay positive and believe. I'm sure, but you like, I know that little dot was still there because I think you said at one point in the book how you would talk to your kids and be, you know, positive to them, and then you'll get back in the cell and just lose your mind. And God told you to shut up and sit down and be quiet. Because
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, I got this.
Most people that have been in that condition, you understand that you have to come out for visits and even on phone calls, and you have to strengthen your family. You know, it's a lot of guys in there that play war with me, trying to get money and still trying to be manipulators. But for the most part, real men that are in that situation, we believe that we owe it to our families to let them know we all right. Don't worry about us. We're fine. Everything's good. I'm going with this. I'm doing this. This is good. So you put that on. But a lot of times after pouring that out in a visit or on a phone call, and you hearing about what's going on, you giving them good advice. You got to stand through this. It's going to be all right, blah, blah, blah. When you get back to that cell, you like, we call it post-visit traumatic disorder.
Right.
That you actually have people be poured out after a visit. You know, and those people that see this, whether they're in state prison or federal prison, they know after a visit, and even the parents, the siblings, the wives, the husbands that go to a visit, they're okay in the visiting room, but when they get back in that car, they go through a period of depression too. Right. And so it's and I went through that day. I mean, a lot of days, but that day it was like, I want out of here. This has got to end, you know. And so it ended. It did.
It's kind of like, after the funeral and all the family members go home, and now you in the house, and
Great analogy.
you got that feeling.
Great analogy. Yeah. I always say I like to call people 2 weeks after the funeral. That's when you really figure out. That's when the person is typically sitting around feeling the loss and the missing person and the soul that's been taken away from their life. That's when it's like, yeah.
Wow. So I forgot to ask you this earlier when I read in the beginning. Why law school?
This is funny. I never really cared about being a lawyer. I just knew it would legitimize me for whatever political position I was going to go after.
Okay.
And when I was when I was teaching school, I got to back up. My then wife, came home and told me that she was pregnant with twins. I was teaching school. I love my job, but I was making $29,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't see taking care of anybody else but the two of us with $29,000 a year. Right. I couldn't go to steps to get up to $60,000 that would take 5 or 6 years to do. And so I said, I got to go do something. And I went down that day to Detroit College of Law. And I said, how do you do this? And I registered for the LSAT. I did it all kind of like to start moving me forward. But once I said, hey, I'm about to run for office. My mother came back a year later after I started law school and said, hey, I'm about to run for Congress. I said, I'm running for your seat. And so I really got into law school at that point because I said, these people are not going to elect nobody 25. It's like at that point now it's pretty commonplace, but then everybody was old. It was nobody like young. It'd be once in a while. But I ran for office and won, and then when I ran for mayor, I wanted to hurry up and finish and get past the bar, which I did, and run for mayor so I could say an attorney. And it did legitimize me because everybody was too young. But I had more degrees and more stuff than the person running against me, and he was 60. Mm-hmm. I didn't have more life experience. Mm-hmm. I had the education to back up some of the stuff that I was saying.
Okay. Now, you were a part of, as a mayor, bringing the Super Bowl to Detroit, right? You were big with that.
Well, yeah. The previous...
Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the all button and all that kind of stuff, because we're going to have a lot of good interviews on this podcast.